I am Slick Nick, and I am the living legend. Really, when it comes down to it, what I believe is that the concept of alpha male and beta male largely, for the most part, are social constructs. We invented these ideas largely for the most part, is what I believe. But I think if we can really get a better idea, for lack of a better word, instead of saying alpha and beta males, I think largely what my channel is about, especially now since the 7,000 subscriber reboot, is that my goal is to help anyone who's even halfway willing to let me help them to transition more from a beta thinker to an alpha thinker, but with emotional intelligence. If we could simply say, well, what's the difference between an alpha and a beta male, assuming they're real and they actually exist? Well, I would say that ultimately an alpha male, or if you're on the scale between alpha and beta and you're becoming more alpha, it would mean that you're more confident. I think that would be the number one thing, is that you're more confident. A lot of people say, well, it's that you're more dominant. Yes, but ultimately, to be more dominant, it's not about forcing people and yelling at people and getting angry and using physical force. A lot of times being an alpha is intellectually outsmarting people. Without raising your voice, without getting angry, without getting emotional, you can often get the other person talking so much and getting emotional that as the alpha, you're actually very calm, you're saying less, and you're showing what a beta they are by letting them talk so much and get so emotional and start accusing you. And that's the thing, I think that often, whether we're talking about alpha versus beta right now, I don't even know anymore. Because ultimately, I do believe it's all a social construct, but I believe the people who watch my videos ultimately want to be more confident. They want to be more, I don't know that it's more dominant, that that's even what matters, but how do you get your way without being a jerk, ultimately is what it is. So I think really what it comes down to, what is this channel about? It's transitioning from being so much of a beta to more of a reasonable alpha. And I want to share this with you. I think I'm someone who's speaking from experience. I can tell you, I've been married for almost 11 years. And when I first got married, I would go ahead and even at the time, if someone called me a beta male, I'd be like, yep, that's me. I'm, just kind of go along with whatever, and, that's cool, whatever. And I'm not that way anymore. But the irony is that it took being married all these years to a woman to get me to be more of an alpha male, because I was put in situations over the last nearly 11 years where I was forced to take charge, forced to make a decision, forced to provide structure. I was forced to do those things, otherwise I became smaller and smaller and smaller. And then I realized in this partnership, Yin and Yang, have you ever noticed that I purposely have this going on to kind of show the yin and yang? I do that on purpose, by the way. I'm not kidding. When I do these videos, I actually practice, like I shoot for like 2 or 3 seconds to make sure it's perfectly balanced. But I realized that for me to be the man I needed to be for my wife, that I needed to become more of an alpha, but I needed to do it without force. I needed to do it with what I'm going to say is calm assertiveness. And actually, you know that I'm not a Democrat or Republican, but that was during the days when my wife and I first got married. That was when President Obama first got elected. And even then, being a non-political person at the time, as I am now, I did recognize something I really liked about President Obama, and his demeanor was calm, assertive. He was in charge, but he wasn't irrational like maybe certain modern day presidents that we might know. There was that calm assertiveness. And for me, forget alpha, forget beta, forget all of that. It's about being calm assertive. And that's actually something I learned from the Dog Whisperer, if you've ever seen that show. But I learned a lot about myself and about humans, knowing how to deal with how to train dogs, actually. That's where I learned that. And then I put it together that, okay, President Obama is calm assertive. And it's easier to get your way by ultimately being a leader without force, without attacking other people's character. You can actually be a better leader. So for me, that's what this channel is actually about. You know, over the years, I've created several characters on here, you know, like Naughty Nick, who is a complete mockery of this extreme version of what an alpha male supposedly is. And then, of course, I've got the oh no guy, who's like the extreme beta. And I created those characters for a reason, to show that they're both ridiculous. And I think often men, especially younger men, struggle to navigate as far as how are we supposed to behave as men? How are, because women want someone who's a strong leader, somewhat of a rebel, willing to break the rules, especially for her. There's all these little rules, but ultimately we still have this like 1950s idea of the guy riding the motorcycle and the slick back hair and all these ridiculous things, and we base off of movies. But ultimately, I think the best examples are not going to be found in movies. I think they're going to be in people in your own life, men that you actually respect. Think about that. Think of what men in your life, specifically older men, you know, not the same age as you. Maybe they are a decade older or 20 years older than you. Maybe for many of you, I am that. That's what I assume. I assume that's why I keep getting subscribers and keep getting viewers for videos like this one. But I think it's important, even for me, which males in my life have most influenced who I am as a male. I mean, I can tell you, my dad, number one, and you see him in lots of my videos, without a doubt. Number one, my dad. Number two, my grandfather on my mother's side. And he passed away about a month after I got married. But those are two men who were the most present in my life. They most shaped me in my understanding of what it actually meant to be masculine, to be a man. They shaped me in those ways. And I think what happens is, I was fortunate that I had two strong, supportive men to help raise me. But for you, I mean, if you were to think, okay, what are the two men in your life that most influenced you in real life? And looking back on that, were they even good influences? Maybe they weren't. Maybe they were completely passive. And that actually helped mold you to be who you are. But I think definitely life experience still could change that, and you still can change from a beta to more of an alpha, but without all the silly movie versions of what we're imagining that, you know, did Ryan Seacrest and Dwayne Johnson The Rock. And you're either one or the other. I think that's ridiculous. But I think that there's a realistic sort of in between that is reality. And when you think about men you actually respect, that's probably what you're leaning towards. Because if you have someone who's so comically alpha, then they're probably not successful in life. You know, I think, for example, I think one measure of success, and this is my own value system, is a man who stays married to the same woman. I think there's so much sacrifice involved and so much character growth in a man who does what it takes to stay married to the same woman. So we could look at these ridiculous concepts of what it means to be an alpha male. Can they stay married to the same woman? I mean, even in Bruce Willis in the Die Hard movies, the first couple of movies were all about saving his wife, and then by the time you get to the middle of the series, he already lost his wife. He's this tough guy who couldn't make that relationship work. And the reality of it as an adult, those are things that actually matter in the long run. Being able to commit to a career and in a relationship. And that's how you actually find fulfillment in life. But this whole, I'm an island, I'm a rebel, it's so ridiculous. And I think people still buy into it, just like, and you know me, just like with pornography. I think even though guys know this is fake, they know it's a fantasy, they still can't keep their subconscious from buying that this is still somehow reality. And I think that men often do that with concepts of what masculinity actually is. That's why I like doing these videos, because I like to give a presentation of reality and hopefully even provide a model to younger men who weren't as fortunate to have the positive male role models that I've had in my life. You got comments? I would love to talk more about it. This is something I actually care about. I would love to talk more about it. Comments belong right here.